at the end of the day, we got a winners bracket final. The loser of this game is not out, but has to play off against the Flash Wolves. If you win your first seed, you avoid RNG. So zooming in on the red side bans, because Afreeca Freecs get a do-over. No more Heimerdinger that time. Feels like a while ago, but that was defined by Heimerdinger. But notice, things like Tahm Kench, Nocturne is going to actually be banned on the blue side, which is a bit of a favor. You have to try to gauge what's left open. The Camille flex pick was so important for G2 in some of their earlier games. Camille's not going to be taken first up, though. It is the Aatrox.
Yeah, just a quick recap here. Urgot, Akali, Heimer on the Freak side, and Xayah, Nocturne, Varus with first pick Aatrox there after the Urgot was offered.
But now Alistar Varus is a sort of lane you can pretty confidently pick up on the red side. So Varus is banned. So Alistar is available, but the Tahm Kench is there to answer it. The 80 carry choice, will it be held on to for a while? Because we do heavily expect the last pick overall to be for Kiin to guarantee that this whole comp falls into place. That implies pretty safe wave clear champion for Kuro that you would see in the first phase. But for now, at least, we know there's not going to be a support Gragas if Gragas is locked in.
There is Gragas locked in indeed. So two very good engage and kind of utility picks here for Afreeca Freecs. Do not show much at all in terms of what carries they are looking to draft. But there is the very much expected Tahm Kench and also a very quick Jhin there for Hjärnan.
And when I was thinking about what I would ban, I would have included Tahm Kench on that roster because 1-3-1 with Tahm Kench is such a hard thing to deal with his ability to Abyssal Voyage over the wave clear mid laner and make a play around the map. But on the side of Afreeca Freecs, we already heard the analyst desk talk about this a couple of times. Do we finally have a group where Kaisa is actually a smart pick compared to yesterday where the games were just too damn quick for Kaisa to come online? Afreeca Freecs are going to answer yes. They will take Kaisa, Alistar into the Jhin Tahm Kench lane. So now suddenly it's things like jungle advantages and who the first turret falls down to that might decide how the mid game plays out.
Well, we can see phase 2 advance here, and mid lane is starting to get picked off here. Syndra on the Freak side and LeBlanc on the G2 side. Of course, we have seen them flex Aatrox to mid already. I don't expect that, given that Wunder has kind of been the shining light for G2, especially throughout the group stage here. But you never know, if Kuro face checks a bad matchup somehow in mid lane, you know that PerkZ will be happy to play it.
And you wonder what he'll blind pick. Galio does loom as a very possible one. Sion, if it was the Flash Wolves, for example, because you seem to want to last pick for top lane. Now, you don't have to, but given just how much power Wunder has been able to flex and the fact that Aatrox could be going mid, you think you're against Aatrox, but if the draft is flipped on you, just like the Heimerdinger represented the first time these two teams faced, you'll feel a bit sheepish. Let's see what Afreeca do. This is a big flex pick for them, as Kiin is one of the big top lane Ryze players.
Yep, and that will be the selection here. Kuro Swain also jumps to mind. That was not banned in that phase, so is a potential option, but Aurelia did get taken away from Kiin or Kuro, but I would move more to Kiin, given the types of picks he's been playing. With Lissandra ban, that means I'll have to take a different mid as well for PerkZ. Well, we'll see what Jankos wants to take as well here, as Cassio going to be the counter pick here, expecting Ryze in mid lane from Kuro.
Big comfort pick for PerkZ in the mid lane. This would be a Camille jungle if it's locked in. Now in EU, there was Maxlor who played a couple of games of Aatrox jungle, but not expecting that here on the world stage. Still an outside possibility. And G2 on the blue side done an admirable job of giving themselves some options. Hell, Cassiopeia versus Ryze is a good matchup too. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that all shakes out. As with the final pick here, the North American inspiration is being shown.
I mean, you already said it. Afreeca Freecs will give Kiin this Ryze and let him carry on if they can. So I wonder if they do give Kuro something like the Galio here, even something like the Zillion, a more supportive mid laner, which they do lock in. I wonder if they give Wunder Cassio.
Very, very possible, right? A pick that's been seen on the international stage all the way back in 2015 until now. Cassiopeia top. When you're hitting that enemy Ryze, you feel good, but when the jungler comes, can definitely be turned back. Wait and see, though. It's definitely a fine matchup in the mid. I'm heavily expecting it's going to be the Cassiopeia mid lane. Ryze with Phase Rush can walk out of that Aatrox W, but with Camille on the prowl, there's a lot of strong ganking options here for Jankos.
Yeah, it feels a little too unsafe. Again, give your players comfort picks. PerkZ played a lot of Cassio games in his life. Wunder, of course, has been good on Aatrox pretty much ever since the champion before and after the changes, actually. And it will be that matchup there in the top side. I have to agree, though, I think we've already seen a pretty explosive Camille jungle game. Jankos is a pretty headstrong player and very aggressive when he likes to be, and Camille gives him all these options. If we are going to look at the top side of the map and say this is where really a lot of the game hangs in the balance, then being able to influence it early and often is something both of these junglers can do and will very most likely do.
And it's not a prototypical 1-3-1 draft, but I think Jhin, Tahm, Kench in the mid lane and Cassiopeia into the Galio in the side lane could be a reality. The Galio has much more value as a combo ultimate starting a fight rather than just trying to wave clear and dodge the poison in the side lane. So it's very interesting to see how this one plays out. Not necessarily how we might have thought about it on paper, but given the paper's been ripped up again and again with the crazy drafts the last couple of days, we'll take it for sure.
Certainly will, and it does seem like a lot of comfort here for both these two teams. Again, they would like this to be the only game they have to play in World's group stage. A win here does give either team first seed. A loss means you are not out, but you must play for your tournament life. And G2 as the third seed from Europe, certainly not the team we would be expecting to get out of this group in first. You'd have to tip your hat there to Afreeca Freecs before the tournament started, but the ups and downs they've had throughout the groups have hurt them, but they can wash that all away here, Papa, with a win. That's
right. The tears are washed away with a 3-0 on this last day of group stage play. Would be the opposite of Gen G yesterday and their 0-3 day. Afreeca, many interviews talking about how much pressure they felt representing Korea, and of course to the 9th degree after Gen G fell away so easily yesterday. Very different kind of draft here. We're not seeing Kramer on lane bully status. Going to be a much more even lane here that is Jhin favored in the bot side. The mid lane is Kuro just looking to wave. It's not a Swain this time, but obviously pretty similar job here. On the Galio, to me, the big unknown is the top lane. Ryze does very well against Urgot and other kind of similar laners here, and the Aatrox is in the similar category. We've seen the walk-in as 3v3.
Yeah, Pulverize starts onto Wadid, actually. He already took maybe a little too much damage, but they are going to turn it back around onto Tusin. Damage isn't bad. They are going to chase. Kuro doesn't have too much left. Ignites it down. They are going to chase. They force the heal. They force the flash as well. G2 now onto Kramer, maybe going to force something out. Jankos with the hook shot. Not quite patient enough, but Hjärnan still chasing Kramer onto the blue buff.
And you see how steadfast G2 are on their read that they win at level 1. Moment the Winds of War goes down, Galio does nothing. Tusin just had to walk away almost instantly and ends up using both his summoners, Flash and Ignite, to try to make the play happen. Might be a surprise to Hjärnan, he's still in lane. Here's the Hex Flash.
Tusin not nearly in range to do anything else at level 1 with only Pulverize, so Hjärnan will just hang out just fine with his support still walking back from base.
Turns out Hex Flash isn't as good as real Flash.
Yeah. Imagine. Hjärnan again will be first to level 2. Actually hits it now, but without his lane partner, not too much he can do other than kind of play it safe. Jankos starting hookshot also means that he did get red solo. It wasn't too tricky. And now going to take this Scuttle Crab nice and quickly. See so many early scuttles from Camille, because pretty single target oriented as a jungler.
The level 1s are basically Scuttle Crab focused because they're all about getting spotting vision, which gives you ideas about the jungle path and helps your jungler guarantee they at least split the scuttles at level 1. Yeah, should feel that Ryze will be very comfortable in this matchup. Range champion. Flash down, of course the lane does change, but with flash up, should be happy to trade and pick up most of the CS. In the bot lane though, as we talked about, this lane does definitely tilt towards the side of G2, and ultra comfort as Hjärnan on this pick so far. 4-0 and his World's KDA looking real nice.
Pretty good at 19. As he has looked, again, good on champions. It really not that many other people are playing at this tournament. With the Heimer banned away, has fallen back to Jhin. And again, makes sense that G2 would take a pretty prototypical draft of them here into this game. PerkZ still pushing up, able to probably not do too much as far as solo killing Kuro, but at least able to apply pressure, which has been the winning formula for G2 so far in the tournament.
And the winning formula here for the side of Afreeca Freecs, I think, is defensive control of the bot side river. You want to get control wards to allow Galio to threaten the roam post level 6, and also just stop the chance for them to play through bot lane, take down the turret, and then start their 1-3-1. Conversely, I think G2 should be able to read that and just play topside, just gank the Ryze until his summoners are down, and Camille ult later. There should be kills to claim there for Wunder on this electrocute Aatrox. For now at least, the river control is there for G2. They took the bot side scuttle. But ending the Kaisa laning phase and getting Jhin on the map as early as possible is definitely the happy place for G2.
You can see Spirit is actually topside, or at least briefly, but Wunder, who is pushing the lane, is going to get those wards down and try and stay safe. Bot side still looking good for Hjärnan and friends. Kramer not taking too big of a hit to the CS. The Spirit actually going to dip mid right now and try and pressure PerkZ, who is playing away from that side. Spirit going to see this and back off, and is now going to get spotted by, I believe, Ghost Porro was hanging out in that brush.
We're already shopped with an early purchase, picks up a Doran's ring, wants to keep the lane going. Jankos jumps into lane, but I think mostly just to start the invade here. Don't know if he was clipped by the vision of the melee minion that had pushed forward.
I think so. I saw some pings, so I believe he was, but gets some vision down and covers for Mr. Krabs that is coming back up on the left side of the river. And already some shots into the turret here. Tusin over the combo. Wadid though with an easy devour, spits him out, and G2 continue laning.
Those little moments have changed very markedly with the Tahm Kench Devour cooldown nurse. Previously, WQ and the Devour on pretty much the same cooldown, but there are windows now. In the early levels, mana gated, so it's not going to be like Tusin's going to go in for the all-in in a few seconds' time, but just something to remember as Alistar Tahm Kench has been a staple bot lane matchup for a long time.
Kiin going to walk out of the chains. Phase rush popped, I believe, but Ryze running a little low on mana. So probably see a TP here from Kiin in just a moment. Actually, already the TP there from Wunder, you can see, has that longsword as Wadid and Jankos are wrapping around.
It's the right play. Look at where the maps are at. With no mana, Ryze can't push in and trade with the Aatrox, who of course is resourceless. PerkZ is controlling the mid lane wave, and we already saw Hjärnan and Wadid were using their dematerializer stacks onto cannon minions. They're pushing. They want to allow Camille the free run of the map. It's the sort of game where you're licking the lips as Jankos, because you have all the options and all the scuttle crabs after the first spawn.
3 in a row always feels nice here for Camille. So Jankos will take that nice and simply here.
It's been power farm so far from Spirit. He was the first in Korea to debut this Predator Gragas, and we'll be looking to try to punish Tahm Kench later. Gragas, very good pick into Tahm Kench, because the cast can get you a double kill if the Devour is, of course, mid-belly. So given that, just needs to try to find ways to reprieve this bot lane, as while the turret's not going down anytime soon, it's not getting any healthier either.
No, and this is the style G2 have been playing to success. This is where they want to be. Short Officio at the desk is happy with how things are developing, at least early in this game, but still a lot to play for here, and his ultimates will start to come online. Expecting either jungler really to find some influence here and see what lanes they can get. Wunder has also been pushed up pretty aggressively, and Kiin is doing a nice job keeping it even. With the early back now as a tier, so he's going to reverse this wave and force Wunder to play a bit more further back toward the turret, but once again, Wadid demonstrates that his W key is still functioning, but Tusin, you know, going to make him use it, just apply a bit of pressure.
Pretty standard stuff overall. Just have to take a step back and appreciate that Afreeca have taken some liberties with a draft like this against G2, a team that does like playing high tempo, that usually a 30-minute Baron to them, or previously, is the sign of a G2 win if we're not including the Heimerdinger. And given those realities, taking a very scaling approach, this game can definitely turn on its head around mid-game, where Ryze gets his core down, where a couple of Galio ults have worked and a Rage Blade or a Storm Razor is done for the side of Kramer. But in the early game, we're seeing it's Spirit passively farming and 3 lanes winning on the side of G2. Not necessarily being reflected in CS in top side, but marginal leads in mid and bot. They have so little control of the map, and while that's acceptable at 7 minutes, actually getting back control of the map with things like control wards having infinite lifetime is much more of a struggle than it might appear on paper.
And again, both junglers are 6. Spirit is ready with his brown boots, so that means Predator is able to be activated, as Kuro will get donated the blue buff ever so kindly by his jungler. Jankos still trying to keep up in farm where he can. Going to take down the Raptor camp as quickly as he can make it, and Hjärnan has returned here to the bot lane with a BF sword, although Kramer does have the same, but I imagine Hjärnan and Wadid will continue playing up here, as that control ward being killed in bot side maybe signals that either Galio and or Gragas are thinking about a play here.
And this is what we mentioned from Spirit, though. Just try to extend this laning phase for as long as possible. Keep showing yourself on the bot side of the map, while there is answering plays for Jankos. Top side, this is the way that you can stop there from being a big teleport play, or even just more chip damage onto this outer bot lane turret. With no resources, you can see Kiin has to use mana on both Wave Clear and Harass, and right now, just doesn't have the total to pull it off.
Here's the setup. PerkZ is out of mana, so that's Kuro going to leave the lane. Tusin going to start the dive. Here's Galio ulting. Hjärnan going to try and make the play, but he's first blood for Spirit, and maybe make it second as Kuro does grab the second.
Super decisive play from the side of Afreeca, and oh so clean as well. The Tahm Kench had nothing he could provide. I love the target selection here. We watched the replay. Spirit has not been seen in 9 minutes. They see Tusin, they know something's up. Watch this replay as the moment that Hjärnan walks away from Wadid, it actually condemns both of them to death. There's no way to outplay that scenario, and while they don't quite take the turret, they take a huge tempo lead in the early game.
They're going to make it close. In fact, they dematerialize a melee minion, so they might be thinking to try something. Instead, they will back off, just let the wave shove in quickly and deny what they can. Jankos is here in the bot lane, but not a whole lot he can do with these duo lanes still returning.
Power of Alistar. Alistar was the unique champion that can make that play work, was able to walk behind the turret, to stick around as a conduit for the hero's entrance, and you look at how much space they controlled. There was just nowhere to kite to, there was nowhere to run, even though this game was played entirely under Afreeca's turret for the first 8 minutes. One Alistar ult later, and things really do start to ratchet up for the side of Afreeca Freecs.
And the last time these two teams played, Afreeca Freecs certainly, were playing their calm style, but played a little too calm. Maybe didn't pull the trigger on plays they could have. This time, beautifully executed play, but G2 are responding well. They're actually going to move 4 people down here to the spot tower. That TP is barely going to be cancelled as the tower does fall, and that's first turret gold over to G2.
Then they understood that actually with Gragas ult on cooldown, if that TP completes, maybe they just kill Ryze, who has a tier and Ninja Tabi and nothing else to speak of. So in the end, just was a bit of a zoning TP, I guess you would think of it. It failed. TP now down, something that Wunder can look to take advantage of. In the interim, because of the roams, the CS lead in mid has grown. No such lead in top side, but there are little windows now for the side of G2 to crack open because Afreeca Freecs have invested a lot to get the 2 kills, but no more.
Yep, important to note, by the way, that I did misspeak. It was Kuro that was coming down, but because Kiin did not have his TP.
Yep.
But still the advantage there for Wunder. And with that turret going down, talk about again, G2 wanting to play in these side lanes heavily and give Wunder a lot of the agency, with more of the map being available to play in, although Hjärnan and Wadid right now are returning to the bot half of the map. Certainly options for them to break open the map a little more if they can hold on to the objective lead, although I doubt it will last too long here in bot lane. See if G2 can continue playing up in tempo.
Do appreciate that Kramer has gone for the Stormrazor here. On the one hand, he does have 3 magic threats on the top side here. Gragas, Ryze, and the Galio are going to itemize into it, but Stormrazor is also more of a 1-item spike, so it does allow them to get closer to 100 AD, a bit more wave trimming, and also damage coming through from the Q evolve that usually follows with the Stormrazor. Kiin's second back, just working towards the Archangel's Rush. Rod of Ages not really seen in competitive play much anymore, but waiting to see G2 finally find a spot where they're happy to have Cassiopeia in a side lane. That, of course, will be in a little while's time. For now, they're actually looking for the roam play to mid.
Yeah, also maybe this Drake here, they'll clear out most of this vision, although there is a nicely placed ward that is just out of range of that control ward there for G2. Tusin around in the area. Again, all the cooldowns ready for Afreeca Freecs if they want to make some sort of counterplay.
Kind of what they have to do with a comp like this. Vacate when their ults are down, but step up when they're up. Speaking of up, Tusin, considering his options.
Spirit ready, Tusin goes in, Galio going to charge it up, but Wadid's going to try and walk out of there. Hjärnan is forced to flash away, and now Jankos may have caught one. Spirit is going to stay in the pit, but Kiin's TP'd in with a miasma as the stopwatch is really nice from Spirit, but it's not enough to save his life, and now Wunder, who TP'd into the front side of the fight with cover fire from Jhin, is almost looking to pick off the alley.
Very optimistic play there from the Alistar. The rest of the team couldn't be in position, and Wunder's teleport was always going to be more decisive than anything Kiin was going to be able to manage, so just ends up being a single kill. Wunder will stick around in the bot lane for now. He's just going to be on zoning duty. This will be the Cloud Drake to the side of G2, and this is a play that Afreeca Freecs initiated, and their long cooldown ults, like the Galio ult, on cooldown from this play.
Yep, Hjärnan runs out of there, and again, Jankos seizes the opportunity onto Spirit.
No way for Kiin to get into the fight. Wunder able to occupy 3 members' time with no fear of death. That was the big difference with the TP plays. Ryze a lot more situational in that regard. That situation did not lend itself to Afreeca finding any advantage.
And G2, they find a windfall in the bot lane. Despite all the pressure, they move their duo first to the top side of the map. And now Wunder is playing in a long lane where he can start to really gain some traction, pick up the farm, and kind of threaten more turrets. This is the start of the setup that G2 want, given the tools that they have drafted.
Exactly right, PastryTime. This is the reward for taking the first turret, is you have first movement in all of these sort of plays, and the moment you see an objective start, it will invariably be by the side of G2. And Afreeca Freecs right now, with their ults down, don't actually have a realistic ability to contest anything.
But when they are back up, the gold lead again, still very close between the two teams. Afreeca have already shown excellent execution on their first play of this game down towards the bot lane, so a lot to play for here, but Afreeca Freecs will have to wait, and that top turret is already pretty low.
If I've learned anything from the crazy games today, you're only as good as your last big play, PastryTime, so can't rely on the earlier execution from deciding this game. Kiin finally gonna get that Archangels pretty shortly, but there's a lot of people on the side of Afreeca scaling up and a lot of power already on the side of G2. That means a lot of scenarios like this where Kuro has no lane pressure, Kaisa and Alistar no lane pressure, and unless Spirit is leading with his ultimate, it feels like basically between cooldowns, G2 win all over the map.
And they are trying something here. Jankos does get spotted on the Herald, and Spirit is on that side of the map, but PerkZ able to rotate quickly over to this play. He's already pressured Kuro out, and Wunder is roaming from the bot side of the map. This is certainly a play that G2 can look for. Rift Tower getting low. Are they going to 50-50 for it? I don't think so. PerkZ going to chase Kuro away. Spirit does actually get the Herald, but he needs to actually get the buff. Jankos is going to make him pay for it. They will look to pick him off. They're able to grab Spirit there. Tusin actually picked up Jankos, though. And now Kiin going to have to run out of there. G2 want to at least chase for a couple more kills as Wunder in the top side is going to try and make something happen, but PerkZ, it was him, excuse me. As Wunder is mid lane, does go down in a 1v3.
So important there that PerkZ is collapsed on by the remaining members of Afreeca. They turn on him. Kaisa able to kill her instant in. Trying to take a mid lane turret. TP being drawn.
This is Kuro once again. Able to easily wave clear, so G2's turret pressure will wear off. Kind of an oddball exchange there towards the Rift Tower, but Spirit, despite dying, did pick up the buff.
Definitely did seem like he was going to give up his life just to pick up the Rift Herald, but surprisingly, given that Jankos was already poked out at the start, we'll watch the replay here and understand it. As it comes through, just ends up being the final hit here by Spirit. He gets the last smite, he goes down. Watch Jankos though, he goes in and the health bars on both junglers instantly low. I was baited into thinking that Wunder would decide the fight on the back end, but PerkZ actually just chases into Kuro, uses all of his stuff, beautiful flash through the petrifying gaze, allows Kuro to get the CC in. Kaisa does the rest. Nice little outplay moment after being pushed in the entire game by Kuro.
Yeah, PerkZ was kind of doing a great job building up the lane kingdom here in mid lane, but quickly thwarted and toppled as PerkZ made a greedy play there that cost him his life.
Hoping it's not a kingdom of dirt, I guess, in this particular game, but PerkZ still in a really good spot to take over the game with his nice CS lead over Kuro. Map control still in a good spot for G2, but you can see Tusin is walking up. Everybody on the side of Afreeca feel a bit more confident. The Rift Herald, the big reason for this, should get a charge off of some degree. In fact, Tahm, Kench, and Jhin are given up, so this will be mid lane turret to the side of Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, kind of the great equalizer here as far as getting those structures go. So Afreeca Freecs will finally equalize the turrets, and they get the important one here in mid. Rift Tower going to make one more charge as well, so get some bonus damage there into the tier 2.
Every turret destruction, a cheer erupts from the Busan crowd. Obviously want to see a Korean team out of groups. That's only guaranteed with a victory here, even with the double chance. Weird thing to say after a Korean team played yesterday, but this is the world we live in. We're picking up the pieces PastryTime in a game like this. Still, I think G2 in a really solid position. The gold lead is not immense. Wunder is putting on a very nice performance on this Aatrox, and we're still struggling to understand where the Ryze stands in the late game split push against someone like an Aatrox, because if you take any inspiration from the Death's Dance that was finished on Zero's last game on Aatrox, the World Ender was very aptly named.
Certainly was, as that turret in bot lane still a few breaths away from being taken down by Afreeca Freecs, but the same could be said for the top outer here, as Hjärnan's going to speed towards it with that false shot and look to take it down. Needs a couple more as he reloads Whisper, but one more shot, and that's enough to take it down. G2 to retake the turret lead, if likely only briefly.
Keep up their setups. The Mountain Drake spawning in 20 seconds. It's not the clean setup they had on the first cloud of the game. Ults are available on Afreeca Freecs. G2 just playing where they're strong. Camille is going to be following in Tahm Kench, but they're not going to be able to do things like steal away the red buff. More and more objectives are going the way of Afreeca. That seemed impossible when we were watching 3 lanes being so extensively pushed in earlier in the game. So this is a sort of equivalence in terms of tempo, or at least map position between G2 and Afreeca that isn't always for granted. In the LCK, in a slow series, you often see, even though one team has the earlier advantage, the game very often reaches parity and goes to late. That hasn't been the world's meta by any means. Afreeca trying to bring it back with love in this game. They haven't quite gotten there, but they do have a foothold in a game that seemed to be going G2's way when that first turret went down.
Certainly keep looking here at PerkZ, though, as G2 are going to force mid and look to take the Drake away. Kiin is maybe trying to trade a tower here. He's top lane, but ready with the TP. If a player rises, then that turret is pretty unhealthy already. But PerkZ has 2 very good items at this stage. If Afreeca Freecs pick a bad team fight, they will lose rapidly, as the Drake will go over to G2, pick up their second of the game, but they will have to trade it for an objective in the top lane.
Looks like Spirit used just on the corner of the screen the cast to try to find a pick onto PerkZ. Didn't lead to anything. It ends up being a turret for Drake exchange. No harm, no foul on either side. We'll back away from here. Just kind of picking up the pieces. I think we should notice that the vision from G2 is a little bit more shallow in terms of the control wards. They finally have Hjärnan in the mid lane. This is not something they've been doing much in this game, with Cassiopeia wanting easy access to blue buff and getting towards 2 items. But we're moving closer and closer to a point where Cassio hits the side lane and should have a pretty happy time against Kuro in a long lane. He's got the Rylai, he's got plenty of trade damage. Chance of kill, the chance of lethaling the Galio, very, very low. But the chance of having a huge health lead and making him super accountable if he tries to make a map play with his teleport or the hero's entrance, that part is a lot higher.
Yeah, and again, Jankos covering for Cassio in that long lane, which he is vulnerable to ganks. Does take the speed shrine, and pressure continues here in the mid lane for G2. It's kind of comical to me that they, again, want to play in these side lanes, and they just have these long side lanes and still the mid outer turret standing, whereas Afreeca Freecs did manage to take that one out. So feels like the teams are somewhat playing to, again, how they've picked for themselves here in this game. But G2 are finding a lot of pressure on even some tier 2.
Okay.
Tusin goes in, but a Devour and a flash from Wadid will save his teammate.
Big plays on both sides. Headbutt Taxi onto a flash pulverize. It's not enough to actually hold up there. Wadid's flashes down. Kind of needed Spirit to pull that off, but between Predator, Flash, and the ult, he could not actually knock in the Tahm Kench for what looked like an inevitable double kill, and that gives plenty of time for Wunder and PerkZ in the side lane to make Afreeca pay for their misplay.
Again, they'll get some turret damage down. They'll open up space in the mid for Hjärnan and Wadid to continue to chip away at this turret. In fact, PerkZ is in a diving position as G2 are looking to make a play here. Wunder with a knock-up, Tag Spirit with the chains, but Afreeca Freecs respond rapidly and are able to defend their structure.
Definitely feels like we are very, very close to the game-defining moment, to a team fight that will really extend the lead for one of the teams or just change the tune of the game. It's about a 700 gold lead for the side of G2 purely because of their access to farm leads. They're going to push up, Tusin's flashes down, and with the miasma down, he can't actually hex flash over the wall. So it ends up being another objective, and G2 continue to inch forward in what feels like a march to allow Cassiopeia and Wunder a very long lane to get split push advantage.
And now that the map is open and the outer ring is spelled, big moves here for G2 can be made as they have the map truly available to them here. Wunder will get watered out. Kiin, with that Spidey sense, does sniff out the Aatrox. But again, people go back, they'll spend their money, and they'll regroup around on next objective. Drake, number 3, isn't up for a number of minutes, and of course Baron is now more of a consideration to at least get vision around and have knowledge of whether or not the team is trying for it.
Wondering about the longsword in the inventory of Kramer. After all, the Nurse to Stormrazor, you actually need a bit more AD than is provided by the Rage Blade and Stormrazor, so we'll have the Q upgrade at this point into the game. Need a bit more attack speed to get on the board when it comes to the E upgrade. That's always the trade-off when you go for the AD build. Meanwhile, Kiin is thrift shopping a little bit. He's working towards what looks like something like a Spellbinder and a Zonia's, but neither of them done just yet. We're definitely cresting between a couple of items for Afreeca's top lane, and meanwhile, Wunder has mainlined a very nice core build, and it seems like if he's able to use all 3 Qs for damage, there's potential kills onto the Ryze available.
Yeah, absolutely. Although Kiin does have quite a lot of money to spend. Got about almost 2K banked up, so we'll have Zhonya's or whatever he wants next finished and ready to continue his 1v1 affair versus Wunder.
If you're going to front line, then you want a Zhonya's. If you want a catch, then you want a Spellbinder. So we'll wait and see and get a little bit of a preview here. And catch is what they're going for with the Spellbinder purchase before Zhonya's. Like to see it proactive wherever possible is always my policy. Game pace slows down for a little bit as there's less objectives to fight for. The vision control around the Cloud Drake is not going to be as consequential. But as the game has slowed down, probably the biggest loser is going to be someone like Jankos, who's not going to be able to move towards a Trinity Force. And in a game that hasn't been as bloody as some of the previous ones we've had, I feel like Camille always kind of struggles for relevance. We'll have an ultimate, we'll have a stopwatch, but more than that, that's a little bit harder.
Agree, but I do respect what Jankos is doing, trying to protect PerkZ, because PerkZ is continuing to gain immense strength in this game. He's 50 CS ahead of Kuro. He's got 3 items finished already, and G2 are starting a very quick Baron. Tusin, he knows, he wards it, and G2 pull away.
That is certainly a tricky one, because Jankos' health bar is not, of course, something that's going to help out too much with the Baron. Belverello trying to tank it there. Cassiopeia can, of course, pick up the spell vamp from the E and get quite healthy, so definitely a nice thing to see. Not going to be enough to actually find the objective. Speaking of objectives,
does go down. Kiin was just waiting in the wings, watching the Castle Minions finish off the work. But Afreeca Freecs do finally match in towers as chains. Again, very difficult to latch on the Phase Rush Ryze.
Phase Rush so actually consequential in this matchup and been one of those keystones that have really allowed Ryze some relevance in the top lane. For a long part of the year, felt like Ryze was just pushed out of top lane for good, but is coming back situationally into a lot of the fighter matchups, because does find some relevance in the trades there. Drake spawning in 15 seconds, already 2 stacked together for the side of G2. Once again, we look at the vision. Seems like Afreeca are very, very shallow with theirs. Respectful, as this is not respectful.
Tusin is going in for it. Jankos gonna have to get out of the way. He flashes onto the Bexco and it escapes. A very slick set of moves, but he does lose his flash and most of his cooldowns to get out.
Super tricky, but super useful that he's not going down as the Drake is spawning. Afreeca Freecs aren't in position to contest for it, but you need that because PerkZ and Wunder are going to be very, very reliably in the side lane. Can't afford to be caught in the 3, which for now Jankos is a part of.
Yeah, you can see also the Scuttle Crab Shrine is owned by Afreeca as well. So Cloud Drake may have to wait here as G2 regroup. PerkZ is still hanging out in the side lane. He loves his new home there in the top lane, and Kuro is going to have to move up to answer it.
Quietly, Hjärnan has put together the 3 items with Hail of Blades that make auto-attack Jhin just so fearsome in a team fight. Hard to communicate just how strong Hjärnan is if he's able to free hit with his item timings and the Hail of Blades. Situationally, in harder lanes, you need to go for something like the Fleet Footwork on the Jhin just to get through laning phase, but if you go Hail of Blades and have Celerity, you get insane bursts of movement speed, attack speed, and thus damage onto the side of Jhin as G2 run at the Baron again. Yep. They've got a lot of Baron damage.
Wunder is going to force Tusin out of the way, but he does get the ward into the back line. Spirit is available to try and get a steal in here, but Wunder just umbral dash back over. They're going to force a 50-50 here. Spirit is going to make it in, but Tahm catch! He got the Baron. G2, can they get out safely? Tusin goes in, 3-man pole into the heroic entrance, but Wunder is fighting it out and just trying to take out Kiin. Tusin,
Kramer in the back
he's got
line.
the PerkZ, but Kramer is trying to rip everyone to pieces. PerkZ, though, is cutting it out. He's just so strong. He gets a double, but Jankos will die. Hjärnan also dead. As Afreeca Freecs tried to dive in PerkZ, he needs to live, but Kuro clips it with a taunt. And Afreeca will get the ace.
They're able to get a lot of kills. They don't kill Wunder. Close to the ace for the side of Afreeca Freecs. 1 Baron buff, but crucially some gold. And PastryTime, it's because of the unsealed spellbook. The double smite is why they have the confidence to make this play. You can fight dirty when you're fighting for first place in the group. They go through this, Spirit comes in, and even though he body slams at around 1,500 health, they trust in the double smite. It comes out. No smite used by Spirit. And Afreeca Freecs know that if they don't all in here, then the Baron buffs are going to be the tipping point for this game. They're able to clear up 4 kills, but crucially not all into Kramer, as you mentioned, PerkZ needs multiple people to be taken down.
Understandably, this is our Ace of Predator replay. Good catch on the spellbook there. Look good for both sides. Honestly, at the end of it here, if PerkZ had a little bit more front line, that may have been a pentakill in the works. Instead, as you mentioned, it's just a split in gold. G2 do at least stay positive for now, and Wunder will be able to do a lot of work in a side lane, given that he still selfishly has the buff to play with. But still, we've played for almost 30 minutes in this very critical game, and it still feels dead even.
Isn't it insane to think that that big Baron that should have blown open the game represents 500 gold, represents a kill and some farm? No more than that for that big play, but now it's starting to actually become relevant. Nice use of the Abyssal Voyage. Tusin is spotted, so there's no big engage just yet.
Kiin also backing up. G2 with that Baron up minion doing a significant chunk of damage to the top inhibitor turret. PerkZ also shoving into the mid lane, trying to get some more work done here.
Smart thing about this, Hero's Entrance cooldown, as we know, it's still going to be pretty long. I believe it was a level 15 cooldown when he used it, so still about 20 seconds away from availability. They used the Baron buff minions in mid lane after taking the top lane in a turret, so it will still be 2 turrets and still starting to be a reasonable Baron buff power play, especially given the situation.
Yeah, happy to be up 2,000 gold. We'll see how much more they can do. G2 are going to escort at least one more little wave into this midsection. We'll see if they rotate back up and try and move around to take the top inhibitor turret, as Spirit does get over the wall to safety, but PerkZ, once again, very threatening with almost 4 items completed.
He knows his role is to stop Alistar from coming in, have a pole conduit for the Hero's Entrance now available. Love to see smart players understand that even though they're loaded with ability power, keeping Alistar away from the fight is more important than a single auto attack onto the turret or a bit of poke with a miasma.
And looks like with only 30 seconds left with the buff, G2's time sieging will be over. Still, they'll be happy to take a 2-turret lead here and go back and continue to spend some gold. They're up only about as much as the Baron power play got them. PerkZ does steal the blue buff on the way out for a bit of extra credit.
Feels like we're at a point in the game, though, PastryTime, where Galio is a combo ult, maybe some mid lane wave clear, but not much more than that. Can't really take Cassiopeia or Aatrox in the side lane. Some people try to play the Aatrox mid against Galio and find pretty good results from that after the taunt is on cooldown. But regardless, the Galio has a lot of kills, so the gold is certainly there, but it's probably going to be in that awkward scenario where all he can do is wait for minion waves to be pushed into him, thus inevitably will lose out on minions, or the gold lead will increase between PerkZ and also Kuro. And now Afreeca Freecs really are kind of dependent on the Tusin flash to be up, and in general the Tusin flank, because if he's not the one opening up a Galio play, feels like G2 walk up, they start the siege, and all-in is the only real answer from Afreeca Freecs.
And it's tough to all-in a 4-item Cassio as PerkZ has continued to build up those items. Kramer, of course, can play pretty good janitor duty in a well-set-up fight for Afreeca, given that he does have 3 items in his building up towards, but Hjärnan no slouch either in the auto-attack department. Jankos apparently is certainly known his role, shadowing his laners, because that is 25 damage a minute this game. That is not a typo.
Gotta do what
the
you gotta
reality
do.
of the situation. Exactly.
Gotta do what you gotta do. So, bit of a thankless task for Jankos. He's an engaged tool and nothing more now with the Guardian Angel, his second item.
They win it.
Pushes up, they get the turret.
Yeah, that's actually nice. They crack it there, Hjärnan with enough damage, and G2 again playing very respectfully. No need to overextend into a potential invisible Alistar headbutt pole combo. Spirit also very threatening with all his cooldowns up.
It's a fine line between the right amount of time to swift push and the time to group, when to be aggressive, when to fall back. It's the realities of playing your drafts, and you don't have Afreeca Freecs on an aggressive 4-1 like they were in the previous 2 games today. They are very much on the scaling side, and the scaling side has been put to the sword again and again, and may still be put to the sword by G2 in this game. About 1:30 till Baron spawns. They have the lion's share of the Drakes, 2-1 in the early game. There's not a lot that Afreeca Freecs control. There's not a lot about this game that they decide. So assuming no G2 mistakes in the swift push, and that has been the G2 we've seen on the main stage, Afreeca Freecs will have to get creative, because in these kind of equilibrium points, they keep stacking up items, they keep getting stronger to the side of G2.
And we'll see if Afreeca do something, because I think, again, the last time these 2 teams played, one of the criticisms, I feel like Afreeca just didn't feel moved to do anything. Granted, G2 played very well to give them that situation and give them very few or no options in most situations, but Afreeca know that at some point it is worth just taking a risk with your tournament life and first place in this group on the line than it is just letting G2 bleed you out. And again, the gold is still very close between these two teams, despite G2 building up a decent lead relatively late into this one, though the Spirit face checking does dodge that W critically. So we'll be okay from the follow-up, but it's starting to get pretty unsafe and very dark in Afreeca's jungle.
And that's the reality, PastryTime, is this game is actually defined by what Afreeca doesn't know. Every time you see G2, someone like Wunder walk up, consider the game from Kiin's perspective or whoever's on the defensive side, they will always have, at best, incomplete information and often no information about where the rest of G2 is. And even if you have some decent wards, say, around the entrances to this inner turret, as Tusin goes in, it's going to be a bit of a laugh there, but in those situations, remember, there can also always be an Abyssal Voyage to join and outnumber. So given all that lack of complete information, Afreeca always going to be on the back foot, and that's why the gold lead keeps inching forward for the side of G2.
Still, Afreeca now control the left side of the map, actually, and Baron is up. Mountain Drake not up for 10 seconds. So we'll see if the teams maybe play for a split here. Wunder, though, with a flank. He is spotted by Kuro. He's going in the other side. He needs to pop his ulti. He's going to get CC for a long time. It's not going to get it. He actually dies before he can even pop World. And Hjärnan moving forward is throwing shots into Tusin, but he pops Unbreakable Will. And we'll be okay. Now, how did G2 get out of a 5v4?
They're on the wrong side of the map, but they're trying to exit as far. Afreeca are not going to walk into something like a Petrifying Gaze. They want to make the play here. They know they have 40 seconds to actually make something happen.
Still 4v5 at the Baron. If you stick around too long, PerkZ and Hjärnan can destroy you.
Kuro, they don't know there's a ward in there, PastryTime.
You can see checking now with the shots from Hjärnan. He's blind, but he's just trying to check and see what's going on. Sees a little bit of info there. Gonna get a bit extra now. Knows they're on Baron.
We've only found the ward at the end. Here we go, though. Baron at 7,000.
PerkZ around the other side. No, he actually doesn't have any vision. They take a control ward down. Wadid again, he can't swap over to Smite. That's Baron over to Afreeca. And Kuro has found the flank as well. Jankos going to be the target. Here comes PerkZ. He stuns Spirit mid body slam. But Hjärnan's trying to cut it out. PerkZ, he flashes, he gets the kill, but Kramer is able to take down the marksman on the other side. Jankos is going to die to the last few bullets, and PerkZ, he has to turn tail.
G2 were oh so good at checking their flanks and finding little incremental leads. They did not expect Kuro, of all people, to be waiting that pixel brush to the left of where the mid lane outer turret is. That started this play. We move on to the Baron. There's only a single smite on the side of G2. Wadid does not have time to turn over. Has to cleanse as we speak. We watch the play. Jankos can't get into the pit. Kuro shows up, and while it's not a four-man taunt, it's 5 members with Baron buff against 4.
And Kramer on that Q just ravages into the backline and starts to play cleanup. PerkZ, he got a kill, and he might have got more if the rest of his team wasn't already dead. Now it's Afreeca's turn with Baron as they knock down turrets and look to break the first inhibitor of this game.
Kramer walks up with double cannon minions and this Baron buff. Will he overstay? Abyssal Voyage is up. Not going to be used.
And Drake also over, if I heard that roar correctly, to Afreeca, as they will equalize. Some nice Drake symmetry there between the two sides. They both have 2 each, and they're both the same.
And amusingly, there's no gold difference between Gragas and Camille. Bigger issue is, though, PastryTime, is that Gragas is a teamfight tank with Engage with no gold, and unfortunately Camille has her ult, the Guardian Angel's on cooldown, and just a phase, just about as much relevance as she can piece together. That was just a reward of having to spend so much time hurting PerkZ through, and there's still a team fight that PerkZ is able to carry, but one team fight goes wrong and Afreeca Freecs can close the game.
Yeah, Wunder also forced a group now, has been for a little while. G2 have been playing together, thinking that maybe they can team fight their way out of this, but it's tough.
They have tools for team fights, but they are not a team fight comp, and they finally do not have a lot of position on the map. So with all those uncertainties that previously were so certain, Afreeca Freecs are able to just back away. They'll feel good about their item purchases here. Merc Scimitar now onto the Kaisa for a little while. Probably Infinity Edge going to be the last item. Assuming Kramer doesn't pick the wrong time to go in. The Hurricane build is really a machine gun that can take people down alarmingly quickly. Spirit going to finally pick up some gold in the sideline. He needs it. He's deserved it on the Scuba Gragas. But Afreeca Freecs, they're the sort of team comp that still doesn't siege very well. The siege on both sides is not immaculate, much better on the side of G2. than the Kaisa provides as the only ranged auto attacker next to Ryze on the red side. But speaking of Ryze, he can finally start to push up some waves, and if they can get some two-lane pressure, that'd be big. But with only 40 seconds left, maybe they're just all in for mid.
We'll have to see. They are going to get the wave pushed in, but it will be pretty swiftly dispatched here by G2. Afreeca will have maybe one more wave to play with here. And of course, it's still open, so if they just want to bust in for a team fight, that's an option as well. Kiin also spotted on a ward, may spur G2 to action, but Afreeca smartly back away as that is a potential option. Wunder wants it though, he pops Ghostblade.
Trying to mainline through mid, they know
Ooh,
Galio's out of range.
That's going to actually force it back. He drops the body slam as well. My anthem from PerkZ is nice. Petrifying Gaze in, but Wunder already a little too low. Here comes Kiin into the middle of the team fight with Id. Forced to get away. Wunder again finds a knock-up onto Kramer. He's going to get pulled back in the chains as Jankos. He wants to try and take him down. Damage is there, but Tusin with a massive pole on the other side. He's going to keep the fight going in Afreeca's favor. PerkZ, he's so low as Kramer surfs in at just the right time to deliver vengeance to the rest of G2. And Ophrum's Spirit will force Hjärnan to get picked off as well. And Afreeca picked off maybe too many for G2 to do anything other than watch their Nexus crumble.
But G2 found all their advantages this tournament, being bold, looking for kills. They understood this game was slipping away from them. Wunder goes for the play. Spirit a hair's breadth away from dying. However, Afreeca Freecs, after starting 1 and 2, go 3 and 0. They guarantee themselves first seed out of the group. G2's not out, but Afreeca Freecs move past, will not have to face RNG, and will be the first Korean team to make it out of groups.
Has to feel good there. Going from potentially also not getting out of your group to topping it. It has been a pretty wild ride for all 6 members of Afreeca. They'll shake hands with G2. As you mentioned, we will have another match after this to determine the second person that will leave this group. But Afreeca, you said they needed a 3-0 Papa. They turned it all the way around to finish on top. And I think this finally showed the quality of League of Legends that we expected from them from day one.
But I don't think they showed up as a tournament favorite just because they went 3-0 on this day. I think there's still question marks about the fact that compared to yesterday, there was a much more forgiving early game presented to them over their 3 games today. I think there are definitely some teams that will look at Afreeca and say, if that's the 1 seed I face, our style could match up well. Cloud9, for example, played so aggressively in the early game. I'm sure they're pulling for an Afreeca Freecs when it comes to the team that they face in those quarterfinals. Still, we have to celebrate that Afreeca mostly today answered the question of, what is your identity? Because we weren't sure about Afreeca Freecs coming into the tournament after day 1, day 2, day 3. We were still thinking about it. Largely, they played around their top lane carry and Kiin, and that proved to be exactly knowing where their bread is buttered, because largely, he is the person that takes them to the good positions in games.
Certainly is, but have to again credit just how well Afreeca have done as a team. I think Spirit in particular had some pretty shocking games given his quality of play in the first half and played exceptionally well all throughout the day to give Afreeca this 3-0.
And in hindsight, it looks like a genius move to give Mowgli a stage game. He only played one game, picked up a victory, but the best of 5s are not going to be as straightforward. So him having a bit of stage experience in Spirit, finally translating on all the pre-tournament hype where his performance in scrims and solo queue was drawing a lot of plaudits, that's a good thing for Afreeca Freecs. Basically everyone, even Tusin, playing themselves into form, and that bodes well because they're going to need to be sharp come quarterfinals.
Certainly have to be. I mean, there's so much to consider here. I think Kuro's also had a pretty good tournament. This is a very quiet player for the most part, someone that generally doesn't do too much, but he is in fact our Master Guard player of the game. And again, not a flashy team in a lot of ways, Afreeca Freecs, and Kuro is certainly not a flashy player on this roster.
But he's not really being given spots to be flashy. In the LCK, sometimes he gets counterpick and pops off on a Vel'Koz or a LeBlanc. He is on draft the Galio, wave clear, and please don't die duty, and he was doing much more than that. 6-0 and 7, hard to go deathless as Galio with so much damage around the rift. But largely, he was in the right position at the right time, backed up his team, and always had his eye for Kramer as the fights went on. So I think he's a well-deserved MVP in this game. It's not easy to be MVP as a Galio when you're being drawn to side lanes to wave clear against Cassiopeia, an inevitable losing matchup, but also have to be there in the team fight, and he just about found the perfect balance to pull that off.
Well, we're done with Afreeca for today, but it is time for one more game. G2 Esports and Flash Wolves fight for their tournament lives when we return. If you go anywhere, you're trolling.